Hello everybody, welcome to episode 16 of making an online Pokemon game in GameMaker Studio 2. In this episode we're going to be working on the camera system, which should be fun. If we look at where we are right now though, before that, you notice our player isn't aligned in the cell. I can tell that because the circle is in the cell and we're not inside the circle and we can't enter the circle perfectly. You can look anywhere else and see kind of I'm not on the grid itself. I'm kind of like offset on the X position. Another thing is our collisions don't seem to be working very well right now. They work downwards and to the right, but because the collision check is basically right on the edge of the collider object, it is registering on the one tile over, so we just need to basically nudge it over by a little bit and then nudge it up as well. So let's fix both those problems. If we go to our player data, which I'm already at, you could go to the render function and we need to shift the player over to the right a little bit by half a grid cell, so grid size divided by 2. The Y position actually is correct, so we don't need to modify that. But this will make it in the grid, so it's actually drawing inside the grid instead of in the corner. Normally with regular sprites you would just change the origin of the sprite, but because we're kind of hand drawing these like 4x4 sprites, we can't really do that very easily. So instead we'll do it that way. And for the collisions, just go into your collider object or your script under terrain, and in the init function we'll just nudge the x2 and y2 here by half a grid cell, so we'll subtract 0.5 from the x and y. It's not grid size divided by 2 for this because this is in terms of actual grid positions, so we subtract 0.5 from the x and y there, and that should fix both of those bugs. If I run this now, you can see we are in the grid, we can enter the circle, and we are now colliding right up against the trees. Alright, so camera system. The camera system I'm going to be using, and I guess why we are using the camera system is because I'm going to create a group for camera. I'm going to be using a system that I created several years ago. It's just a script for the camera. I reuse this every time I use the camera system because it works. I don't really need anything fancier. Normally I would just copy and paste it, but because I'm doing it with you guys, we're going to type it out together. Before that, I want to point out an issue that we're going to have. So if you go to your menu, go to game options and go to Windows and graphics, I want you guys to check allow window resizing and check full scale. Make sure both of those are checked and apply this and run it, and you'll notice, well, you probably won't notice right away, but you can now resize your game just fine, and you can make it any size you want. But if you resize it, everything gets scaled down or to the side, and if you didn't have the full scale, you kept at keep aspect ratio, then you would just have black borders in the edge, and I don't like either of those, so we are going to use this camera system as a way to resize the application surface and position it right in the perfect place. So in this camera script, let's create a macro for it, because this is going to be a singleton, your guys' favorite. Get camera. This function will be a camera with a constructor. By the way, if you don't know what a singleton is, like in programming, it basically just means we're only going to have one camera ever. So we'll never be able to create more than one camera. That's why it's called a singleton, I guess. It's very useful for things like this, so I don't have to like create a variable called camera that stores a camera object. I just can call, you know, like camera dot whatever. So var c equals a, static c is a new, get camera, return c. By the way, if you did that, if you changed this from static c to var c, that would break really bad. That would mean that every time you called anything in the camera, it would recreate the camera. So it would not be a singleton anymore. It would just be you recreating things a lot. Hopefully I didn't make that bug anywhere. I don't think so. I think I've been doing pretty good at keeping these static. So anyway, let's create this camera. So we need to start by defining some variables in this camera. For one, we'll define the position, which will be 0, 0 by default, and a target. So this is where the camera is versus where we want the camera to be, because we don't want it to snap to its position. We want it to kind of like smoothly move from one position to another. We need a ratio. We'll set it to, well, just set it to 1. I think that should be fine because we define ratio in the code itself. So hopefully that doesn't break. If it, well, set it to 1920 by 1080 for now. That's what I have it before. It doesn't really matter because it should regenerate at the very start anyway. But just in case, I'm going to do this. We need to find a size. So that's the width and the height. Set these to 0 by default. If I can make this correctly. So we need a size and we need a port. Two different things. If you don't know, the size is going to be the size of the camera, so the width and the height of the camera, while the port relates to the screen itself. So the physical screen that's displayed versus the size of the camera that we want to see, the view of everything. We'll create a zoom equal to 1. So this is how much we want to zoom in on the screen. So if we want, we can like change it and zoom in or zoom out. We need to find the actual camera itself. So camera create. We'll create a linked object. This will make it so that we can set an object to be linked to the camera so that the camera will follow that object. So we don't have to worry about it too much if we want. Interpolation 0.1. So like I said before, the camera isn't going to snap from one position to another. It's going to smoothly move between the positions. And this is the value that it's going to interpolate between. So if you have a lower number, it'll be smoother. If you have a higher number, it'll be more snappy. We'll need an edge object. I'm going to have this be an empty structure for now. And then we can create a function to actually set the edge. This is basically the bounds of where the camera can and can't go. So if you have the bounds to be 0, 0, then the camera would not be able to ever move beyond the edge. So it's like the edge of the room. So we could just set it to room width, room height, 0, 0, but in case we need to change it, we can. So create a function for set edges. It's going to take in the x1, y1, x2, and y2. And I will say edge equals x1, y1, x2, y2. And I'm actually going to default these to undefined. So if the values are undefined, that means that they will there will be no edge, so it can go as far as you want. And then right after this, I'm going to say set edges with no parameters. So by default, we won't have any edges. And then we'll need we'll need 3 more functions. On room start is a function. On update is a function. And on actually we'll call it on window resize. And that should be fine. I'm going to give it a width and height. This will be the width and the height of the actual screen itself. I could get it in here, but I'm going to be getting it in the update function anyway, so I'll just pass it along. So anyway, you'll see what I mean when we get there. But for now, in the on-room start, so this will happen at the start of the room, and I don't know why you just closed. Anyway, this happens at the start of every room. So view enabled is true. View visible 0 is true. Not visible. And view camera 0 is the camera. I could set this in the room itself, but this way I don't have to worry about it ever. I can just put the object in and forget that this even is a thing that needs to happen. And actually, we need to create a couple more functions, don't we? I'll do it above here. We'll have one for set position. And we'll have one for force position. And these are going to take in an X and a Y position. I almost forgot about these functions. Basically, these are going to actually move the camera to a specific position. So set position, we need to set the target X and Y. So I will say target.x equals delta X and target.y equals delta Y. For the force position, we need to set the target and the normal position. So if we do set position, then this will move it to where this will make it smooth movement. So it'll smoothly move from one position to another. But if we have force position, then this will make it immediately snap to wherever we want. And you can do this in a little fancy way. You can say target.x equals position.x, which equals delta x. It is basically like daisy chaining the assignment operator. So it's going to set the target and the position equal to delta x. It doesn't really change efficiency or anything. It just saves 2 lines of code, and to me it looks a little nicer. Anyway, now we can go into the onUpdate function. And first we need to get the width and the height of the screen itself, the port. So for var w equals window get width. So this is the width of the screen itself, and the height. And then if w is 0 or h is 0, return. This is because there's times when you might minimize the window. It'll set the window's width and height to 0. And if you do that and you try to resize the application surface, it will crash the game. So best to just do this. Make sure if it is 0, just ignore everything. Don't do any updates if the screen is minimized, basically. If linked is not known, this means we have an object that we are linked to and we want to set our position to that. We can just say set position to linked.x and linked.y. So take advantage of that function we created a moment ago. Then we need to actually interpolate our position to the target position. So we just say lerp from our current position to our destination position, and the value is that interpolation variable we created. We'll do the same thing for the y. Position.y. Okay. And now we need to force it so that this position is never beyond the edge of where we want it to be. So remember we created that structure called edge. So we'll say if edge.x1 is not undefined, then we'll say position.x is the maximum of position.x, and we need to say edge.x1, but we can't just say x1 because our position is going to be the center of the camera. So when you are talking about these like positions here, this is the exact center of the camera instead of the edge of the camera. So we need to actually subtract size.width divided by 2. So subtract the width of the camera basically, or half of the width of the camera, to go from the center to the left edge. We'll do the same thing for x2. This time it'll be minimum though, and it'll be x2, and this time we need to add size, or add the width divided by 2, and that should be fine. Copy and paste this for the y positions now. I could have made this a function. That probably would have been better, but I don't think it's too bad that we need to. So we'll change these to height. Everything looks correct. I think I have everything done. All right, the next step, we need to set the camera itself, the physical camera. So camera set view position. This is the camera. And I'm going to do this on another line because this might be a lot for one line. Position.x, position.y, except we can't just do the position x and y because, like I said, our camera is in the center, but GameMaker's camera actually expects a top left corner. So this is saying we're going to set the top left position of the camera. So we need to subtract size dot width divided by 2 and subtract size dot height divided by 2. And let me clean that up a little bit. All right, last thing. We're going to say if port dot width doesn't equal our width, or port dot height doesn't equal our height, then I'm going to call on window resize using that width and height. So if the window itself is not the same as whatever we stored our port as, then that means the window is resized. And here I can just simply first say if width equals 0 or height equals 0, return. We don't want to accidentally set it. Again, same thing. We don't want to try to resize anything if we are minimized. We'll say our port dot width equals the width and port dot height equals height. We'll say ratio equals port dot width divided by port dot height. So this is, like I said before, we are calculating the ratio ourselves by doing width divided by height. But again, just in case this doesn't get called immediately, I'm just going to do this anyway. Our size dot height is, so now we need to calculate what is the size of the height. Normally you'd just be able to say port or equal to, did we create this value actually? Did we create a variable for this? We didn't. So we need a variable here called target height. So at the very top, just define this. It's going to be set to 1000 for now. This is how tall we want the screen to be. So for this size.height, we can set it to target height. But we have that zoom function, so I'm going to divide it by zoom. So again, this is the actual size of the camera. So we're going to forcefully set the height to whatever we want it to be. And then the width will be dynamic in that it'll be based on whatever the screen ratio is. So we just have to do size.height times the ratio. And then that should be right. I'm just making sure it wasn't port.height, but nope, this is correct. Now we need to actually set the room's port positions. So if you go to view export, we'll set the 0th one to 0. Do the same thing for the Y port. Set to 0. View W port is whatever our port.width is, and H port is port.height. Last two things, we need to set the camera's size, the actual size of the camera, and we need to set the application surface size. So camera, set view size, camera, and there's going to be the size.width and size.height. And then we need to resize the application surface by doing surface resize. We'll do the application surface, and this one is port.width, port.height. Alright, sorry if that was a lot, but that should be everything we need now. So if the port ever or the screen ever gets resized, this will get called, calculate the ratio, adjust the sizes, and then scale everything to the proper sizes. Alright, now all we should have to do is create an object and call those functions. So we'll create an object camera, we'll make it persistent. In the other room start event, I'm going to say camera.onRoom start. Apparently I didn't create this function, or I named it wrong, but no, it's correct. Whoa, so okay, it should be fine. Anyway, add event, step event, and here we just need to, why won't I zoom in, say camera dot on update, and that should be everything. Just have to call those two functions, and then in the room we just have to add in the camera. So go to your assets, drag in the camera wherever in this client room, and run it. And did it break, or is it not running? It says it's running. About to start room. Is it running? I don't see it anywhere. Hopefully you guys aren't seeing anything weird on my tabs. Did we do an infinite loop? That's the question that we need to ask. I don't know how that could have happened. We call on window resize. We're not actually calling anything crazy, I don't think. On room start. Watch it be running in like a weird tab or something, but why isn't this running? Let me try it one more time. If at first you don't succeed, try again. All right, let's do a couple tests. Let's do a show debug message. Debug message on room start. Run this. And did it print? It's hard to tell. That wasn't very helpful. All right, let's look at the object camera and see what I did here. So on room start, we're calling camera on room start. Let's comment that out and see if you run now. You don't, which means it's probably an issue with the step event. So if I comment camera on update. Okay, so yeah, something to do with this update function. I would say an infinite loop, but I also feel like an infinite loop would at least crash the game. So the only thing I can think of is that it's calling itself. So one little trick you can do to debug, and it's probably not how you're supposed to debug things, is just comment a big chunk of code out until it starts working. So it doesn't work there, which is already strange. Actually, it doesn't work anywhere. So I wonder if maybe the object itself is broken. So let me just remove these 3 lines of code. Like, not the object, but the singleton, which it would appear so. So why is that? Did I mess something up here? Okay, yeah, okay, that should not be get camera. That should be a new camera. That's kind of funny. Okay, uncomment this out. Nothing to see here, just me creating infinite loops. All right, there we go. Now the camera is working. It does look a little weird probably to you guys, but the camera's position is set to the top left corner of the entire room, and so we're seeing the top left corner. And if I scale this up, as you can see, the room itself does not get any bigger or smaller, so that is great. So let us actually define the player to be the actual center of the camera, and we can do that pretty easily, I believe, if we go to our network on data client. So right here we create, well, actually it does, it's kind of because our player controller make player, it's not an actual object, it's just a structure that gets drawn, right? We don't have a player object. I don't think we don't, no. So okay, different way we can do this. We can come into player data, and when we do update position here, yeah, well, we'll do it under the render, I guess. We'll set the camera if we are the correct camera. So in the render at the very bottom, we'll say if ID equals client.id. So that means that this specific player is ours. And then we're going to say camera.set position to position.x, position.y. Hopefully that works. If I run the client now, as you can see, our camera is working. We are in the world. That's fine. If we go into our camera, you see that we're very much zoomed out though. So I'll go to the camera script at the very top where we set target height to 1000. We can reduce that to like 500. Run this now. And now we're zoomed in more. Our animations seem to be a little oh no, they're not. Well, they're a little wonky. We'll fix that another time. I think I know the issue with that. Also, the fact that we're like jumping, we'll have to fix. But for now, the cameras are working. But you notice as soon as we start the game, it jumps from the top left to the bottom right. That is because, again, the camera starts in the 0, 0 position. So what I need to do is under the player, back to the player data, when it's created, right there, let's copy this code right here, and at the like above the render, we'll say the same thing, except instead of set position, we're going to say force position. So what this is going to do is, as soon as this object's created, if this is the ID, we're just going to set it immediately, set the position. And that did not work. I'm not totally surprised there. That's probably because, I'm not sure actually. Let me try it one more time. I don't know if I ran these code again. Oh, well, apparently that didn't work. So I'll have to look at the code for next time and we'll see what it is. If you guys know, you can fix it yourselves. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until next time. Ooh, it's hard to tell. Some of the times it looks like it's like jumping around in weird ways, but I can't tell if that's just the animation. Because if you see, like, at some points my legs are not moving. And it's like when I immediately change direction. So I'll have to look into that too. I'm guessing it's just, I think I know the issue, but it might be a little bit of a hassle to fix. So I'll have to look into that. Another thing we'll have to fix, obviously we shouldn't be able to see the edge of the screen. Actually that's pretty easy to fix. Camera dot set edges 0, 0 room width room height, and if I run this now, okay, I was wrong. Apparently it wasn't that easy. I don't know why. It feels like none of this code's running right now, so I'll have to look into that. But until then, I guess I will see you next time, because this video is running at 27 minutes, so this will have to wait until next time. So until then, see you later.